So high, so high, so high. Once again, another edition of my weekend show, 10 minutes on the clock, with your boy Li495. What's good on the internet? What's good in life? Real name Akeem Balaam, of course, but let's get right to it. So earlier this week, we saw the crowning of a couple of college basketball titans this year. At those being, of course, the Kentucky Wildcats, or as Greg Gumbel would say, the Wildcats from the University of Kentucky, as well as the Lady Bears from the University of Baylor, from Baylor University in Texas, of course. But let me just get to to Kentucky winning their championship. Of course, Anthony Davis at the helm of their team. Of course, John Calipari, their coach, and him coming over from Memphis a few years ago, agreeing to coach the University of Kentucky. It was obvious. It was so obvious throughout this tournament that Kentucky, and not just throughout the tournament, but also throughout this past basketball season, the University of Kentucky Wildcats were indeed on a mission. They were clearly better than just about everybody else this year. The only hiccup that they had was in the SEC tournament when they lost to the Vanderbilt Commodores. That was just about the only problem, the only slip-up that they had. But other than that, they were running on all cylinders from the beginning of the year to the end of the year through the NCAA tournament. They were the best team, clearly. They blew out all their little opponents. Everybody else that came up had a chance, really had no chance. Kansas, you can tell Kansas, they gave it their best as well. Thomas Robinson as well, and everybody else on Kansas. But it was obvious. Kentucky was just a better team than everybody else. Even when Kansas tried to make it close, Kentucky said, not so fast. And the result, they cut down the nets at the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans, and they are your national champions for this year, 2012, and most likely Anthony Davis will most likely be the number one pick in this year's NBA draft, even though there were some drunks in Lexington that wound up having to ruin the party a little bit because they wound up getting a little bit rowdy. There were some arrests downtown at the party somewhere in Lexington. I think it was like 14 or 15 arrests someplace, but a few drunks got out of hand, and I guess are really sort of sapping the pride for all of those Kentucky alums, especially the oh-so-fetching Ashley Judd. Moving on, the Brittany Griner-led Bears from Baylor, they won their championship, beating the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Lady Irish, in their championship game in Denver. And here's the bad news for all of the women's basketball teams that are coming up next year. Brittany Griner is not going in the WNBA draft. So they're going to get even more a lot more coming next year. They're going to be the favorites, of course, to repeat, and they went 40-0 this year. It's one thing to win a national championship. It's another thing if you're a men's or women's basketball team to go 40-0. Not even any of Gino Auriemma's UConn Lady Huskies teams did that, if I am not mistaken. So they went 40-0, topping it off with a national title for Baylor, and Notre Dame losing for the second year in a row. They lost last year to the Lady Aggies from Texas A&M. You know, here's one thing, and also congratulations to Kim Mulkey and everybody else that's their head coach and everybody for the University of Baylor. Even Robert Griffin III, RG3, was there, and he cut down one of the nets along with Brittany Griner and everybody else there. Here's the thing that I acknowledge a lot about women's college basketball athletes. And here's what a lot of people don't necessarily know, is that right after the NCAA tournament, right after they had their NCAA tournament, those that decide to go pro are preparing for the WNBA draft in the midst of their college basketball tournament. So while they're preparing for their college basketball tournament, they're also doing preparations for the upcoming WNBA draft. That's one thing that not a lot of people know, because women's college basketball isn't necessarily all that followed by the mainstream press. But that's one thing that I really admire, that they had to almost take an immediate jump from the college ranks into the pros, graduate their last year of college, go through their last year of college and everything like that, go to class and everything that goes with being a college student, like I will be in a few months, and immediately jump forward into the WNBA draft. NBA players, they got like 3 months to prepare because they got to hire agents, they got to do media tours and all this other mess. But women's basketball players don't necessarily have all that time. partly because they don't have to deal with as much media, but they also have a lot to go through preparing for the WNBA draft in the midst of their women's college basketball tournament. And a perfect time. So once again, congratulations to both Kentucky and Baylor winning their respective national championships. Just whizzed past halftime, and let me segue into something else that happened this week. Of course, Major League Baseball opening day. Okay, Bud Selig, let me just point this out for you. I can understand that you seem to have a fetish with opening day. A lot of people do. You know, it is a national holiday, you might as well say, for many Americans and even Canadians who love baseball. But 4 opening days virtually. They spread them out over 4 days and really spread them out over the course of a week. First, it was the Oakland Athletics and the Seattle Mariners having to travel all the way across the Pacific Ocean from Arizona all the way to Japan to play opening day regular season games in Japan, then have to come back to the United States to finish spring training in the Cactus League before they actually play in the Oakland Coliseum for their real opening day. And believe it or not, they're calling that place the O.Co Coliseum. Huh? Come again? Horrid stadium name alert. Just a side note. But they had to come back all the way from Japan to play games in Arizona. And then there was Wednesday night where you saw the St. Louis Cardinals and the Miami Marlins christen that new thing in South Florida, and the Latina feel that really engulfed that ballpark because they're trying to have they're trying to make the team fit in with the vibe of the city. You know, South Florida is 46% Latino, so it's obvious that they would choose colors that would really be appealing to the extensive Hispanic community of South Florida. But of course, even with the pomp of circumstance, the Miami Marlins continued to be the same Miami Marlins as they lost to the St. Louis Cardinals, and also they lost when they went to Cincinnati when they opened in Cincy against the Reds, and they lost that game as well. So right now they're 0-2, but there's a lot of season to go. That's one thing I don't like about a lot of what fans will sometimes do in reaction to all this, is that they will jump off bridges based on one game. Calm down. It's one game. There's a lot of season lost. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. There's a reason why there's 162 games in the baseball season. If it was going to be like that, C-League would say, okay, we'll lower the season down to 36 games. So nobody had better be jumping off bridges based on 1 or 2 games. Moving off of baseball and moving on to this Gregg Williams stuff. I listened to those videotapes and all the F-bombs that he dropped and all the headhunting that he did, whether it be on Alex Smith or Michael Crabtree, because the audio tape that was picked up had to do with a pregame locker room speech that he gave to the New Orleans Saints before their playoff game versus the 49ers. Now, of course, the Niners wound up winning that game, of course, and they wound up going to the NFC Championship game versus the New York Giants, but that was some grisly stuff. Between this and the fact that he was involved in a bounty with the Washington Redskins while he was their defensive coordinator, and now this coming out, Gregg Williams is in some deep mess. He may wind up being banned for life. It really could go that far that he may be banned for life in the NFL, and he's going to be fired from the St. Louis Rams for sure, and that may be the least of his issues, because he may be banned for life from the NFL, because right now he is about as vile as a 4-letter word to NFL players, especially those on the offensive side of the ball. And also, I want to reference this before I get out of here. This Dwight Howard saga just took another turn for the bizarre. Now it turns out that Stan Van Gundy is admitting that Dwight Howard wanted him fired. Just when you think this thing was all over, it's not over, because it's going to be like this once again this year, next year as well. We're going to be doing the same old song and dance next year, doing the Dwight Howard trade dance rumors with all of this going on. He clearly wants out, but he just doesn't want to leave like a bad guy, like many people felt like LeBron left. So that's what's up. That's my 10 minutes on the clock weekend show for this week. Kentucky and Baylor winning their respective national championships, MLB opening day, and what you think of all this, and also the Gregg Williams stuff and Dwight Howard trade rumors once again. Really not trade rumors, but also him reportedly wanting Stan Van Gundy indeed fired from the Orlando Magic. So rate, comment, react, reply, add, and subscribe to the Real Sports Talk Network here on YouTube. I'll probably be talking about some of this maybe next week as well. And also, I know I want to get to next week. I want to get to the rumors involving the Phoenix Coyotes, as they could be moving to not Oklahoma City, but rather Quebec City, back north of the border. But they could be moving back to Canada, the Phoenix Coyotes. So once again, Real Sports Talk Network, subscribe to this, subscribe to everybody here. LI495, see you on the internet someplace.